The Silk Road was a large network of ancient trade routes that connected Asia and Europe. But it wasn't just about trading goods. It was a lively way for people to share ideas and cultures. The road stretched over 4,000 miles, connecting the Mediterranean to China. Travelers crossed deserts and mountains, bringing with them spices, silks, stories, you name it. For a long time, merchants and diplomats traveled these routes. They spread goods and new ideas that changed history. It is believed that the city of Xi'an, China, was the starting point of the road. This vibrant city, once the capital of the Tang dynasty, was a hub of commerce, culture, and innovation, attracting merchants, traders, and travelers from all corners of the ancient world. From Xi'an, the Silk Road extended its way through the rugged terrain of the Xinling Mountains, passing through the provinces of Shaanxi and Gansu, before entering the vast expanse of the Gobi Desert. Crossing the Gobi Desert, the Silk Road passed through the Tian Shan Mountains, a treacherous range that stretched across present-day China and Kazakhstan. The steep passes and icy rivers of the Tian Shan Mountains presented a significant challenge to travelers, who had to navigate treacherous terrain and contend with harsh weather conditions. Yet, despite these dangers, the Silk Road remained a vital conduit for the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures between East and West. Beyond the Tian Shan Mountains, the Silk Road branched out into two main routes, the Northern Route and the Southern Route. The Northern Route, which passed through present-day Mongolia, Russia, and Kazakhstan, was known for its harsh climate and rugged terrain. This route followed the Great Wall of China, passing through the cities of Urumqi and Turpan, before entering the vast steppes of Mongolia. From there, it continued westward, passing through the Altai Mountains and into the heart of Russia. The Southern Route, on the other hand, passed through present-day India, Pakistan, and Iran. This route followed the ancient Indus River, passing through the cities of Lahore and Peshawar, before entering the fertile valleys of the Punjab. From there, it continued westward, passing through the Bolan Pass and into the heart of Iran. This route was renowned for its diverse geography, which included mountains, deserts, and fertile valleys, and was an important center of trade and cultural exchange. In addition to the overland routes, the Silk Road also had a maritime route, which connected China with the Mediterranean region through the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. This route began in the port city of Guangzhou, in southern China, and passed through the Strait of Malacca, into the Indian Ocean. From there, it continued westward, passing through the ports of India and the Middle East, before entering the Mediterranean Sea. This route was a vital artery of trade and cultural exchange, but also a treacherous journey, with risks of piracy, storms, and treacherous sea routes. But in all these, we ask ourselves, how did the Silk Road begin? Well, it first started around the 2nd century BC during the Han Dynasty. This was an important time in China when Emperor Wu was Emperor of China. Emperor Wu of Han sought to address the persistent conflicts with the Xiongnu tribes that plagued China's northern and western borders. In 138 BC, he sent an envoy named Zhang Qian to find allies. He hoped to establish an alliance with a group called the Yuxi against the Xiongnu. As Zhang Qian traveled through Central Asia and met many different cultures, he was notably amazed by the Dayuan and their amazing horses. China had used horses for a long time, but these were special. They were larger, stronger, and faster than any horses China had. When Zhang Qian came back, he told Emperor Wu all about these fantastic horses. Emperor Wu quickly saw how helpful these horses could be, and he got some for China, and also for those who helped with the Xiongnu problem. Inspired by Zhang Qian's trip, Emperor Wu decided to create the Silk Road as a trade route in 130 BC. This network spread over 4,000 miles and opened up a whole new world for trade and ideas. Under the Han Dynasty, the Silk Road grew. This happened because the government invested in roads and security for the traders. They built new roads and bridges to help the merchants and keep them safe. The army also played a big part by securing trade routes and getting rid of bandits. New trading towns like Samarkand and Bukhara popped up, becoming busy centers for trade. The Han government also worked on adding new routes to connect more places. The northern route went through the Tian Shan Mountains and helped trade silk and spices. The southern route went through parts of what we now call India and Pakistan, focusing on textiles and tea. These new paths made trade easier and let people share their cultures more. For a long while, silk only came out of China due to the fact that it was the Chinese who had discovered how to harvest the material from the cocoons of silkworms and had strategically hidden this discovery from the rest of the world. Thanks to the creation of the Silk Road network, though, the material and products produced from it could now be sold all throughout the path to Europe. And it was the Far West Romans, in particular, who really fell in love with this Chinese commodity. This obsession with silk that the Romans developed would actually also prove to be a prime example of how the Silk Road not only spread goods from west to east and east to west, but also brought culture and new ideas to each state that it touched. In the case of Rome and silk, the remarkable demand for the product within the empire eventually put Rome in a position of an unfavorable balance of trade, which deeply bothered the emperors. While nothing would ever be done to rectify this before the 476 fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire would take on the burden, and it would be their emperor who now put an end to it. After discovering the source of this infatuating material, Emperor Justinian sent 2 men undercover as monks into China to steal enough silkworms to start a new production stream of silk back in Byzantium. The expedition eventually worked, and so the Eastern Roman Empire could now save itself from the same high-priced silk-induced trade imbalance of their Western counterpart. Although silk wasn't the only thing traded, the roads also carried spices from the Levant, gemstones from North Africa, and a variety of fruits and vegetables. Livestock, grains, and leather were common too. Arabian horses, known for their speed and beauty, were sought after in China. The Silk Road also allowed important technology, like paper and gunpowder, to travel from China to the West and change how people communicated and fought. We would always say this: the Silk Road was more than just a route for trade, because it had connected so many peoples. It was a melting pot of ideas, beliefs, and art. Different cultures met and shared knowledge, and frankly, religion as well. Buddhism made its way from India to China on the Silk Road. Monks worked hard to translate important texts and set up monasteries at major trading spots. These monasteries became places for worship and rest for travelers. They helped both trade and religion grow together. Eventually, Buddhism blended with Taoism in China and began to replace older beliefs centered on worshiping ancestors. Other religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam also spread along these routes. They formed communities that added to the rich culture of the regions they reached. This mixture of beliefs made the Silk Road a true bridge between people and cultures. But even though the Silk Road brought many good things, it also had some bad side effects. More people and goods moving around meant that diseases could spread too. There is evidence that illnesses like leprosy traveled along these trade routes. The most notorious was the Black Death, a horrible plague that hit Europe in the 14th century. Thought to have begun in Central Asia, it spread with infected rats hiding in trade caravans and led to the deaths of nearly half of Europe's people. One of the most famous travelers on the Silk Road was Marco Polo. He was a merchant from Venice, in 12 Road. While some of what he wrote was probably exaggerated, his books sparked a lot of interest, and his texts shed light on the languages and cultures that once thrived along the Silk Road. Today, many historians like to call it Silk Routes to show how complex the network really was. Till today, you can see the Silk Road's influence in modern markets where different cultures share and trade. It has inspired big projects like China's Belt and Road Initiative, which works to connect economies worldwide. And so today, the spirit of exploring, sharing, and connecting that the Silk Road stood for continues to guide collaboration and trade around the world as we know it. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can leave a like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You could also turn on the notification bell so you'd be updated on our next upload. And so, see you next time.